That sounded fun. All right, so welcome everybody. We're so happy that you're here to join us today for this info session for our current request for proposals from the Salt Lake City Arts Council. This will be a mural that we are seeking proposals that will go into the surface of a sculpture that will be constructed later this year in the 9th and 9th neighborhood in a roundabout at the intersection of 9th South and 11th East. First, for introductions, my name is Renato. I am the Public Art Program Manager for Salt Lake City, and this is like my 5th week working, so I'm fairly new to this. And Abby, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yes, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Abby Draper, and I'm the Public Art Program Assistant. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your days to meet with us. It's meant to be sort of an interactive opportunity for us to chat. So take it casually and we'll just have a little bit of dialogue as we go through here.
And Abby and I are very, very happy to be interacting with artists right now, because we were just talking about how the process once a commission happens is usually with one artist or the team. So this is really good for us to get to know you all and see your faces or hear your voices. So a little bit of housekeeping as we go along. Let me pull up my notes. Please keep your mics turned off during the session. This will avoid any interference or the background to pick up any noises. We are recording this, so I mentioned this before, but if you don't want your face to show up, if you were to ask a question, just keep your camera turned off, but you're more than welcome to keep it on. We will later post this session on our YouTube account. So if you need to step off and take care of business and not be here for the duration of this session, know that you can find it later on YouTube. Questions, we will have a Q&A section at the end. We ask you to, if you have any questions specific to this proposal, this RFP, to post it to wait until then, and you can either do it verbally at the end by turning on your mic at the end, or you can send us your question via the chat. We will also be updating our question and answer sheet that we have on our website. This will be posted with specific questions that come up to date related to this project that we received today. And lastly, I want to acknowledge that this project that we're talking about is in the land which is named after the Ute tribe and is the unceded traditional and ancestral homeland of the Shoshone, Paiute, Goshute, and Ute tribes. The Salt Lake City Arts Council and the Public Art Program acknowledge the significance of place and the continued existence and contributions of Indigenous people who have lived on and cared for this land for thousands of years. We're grateful for the territory in which we gather today. We respect Utah's Indigenous peoples who are the original stewards of this land, and we value the sovereign relationships that exist between tribal governments, local governments, state governments, and the federal government. We affirm our commitment to a partnership with Native nations and urban Indian communities through collaboration, education, engagement, and community outreach activities. As we begin, I would like to give you a little bit of context and background on the Public Art Program, the Percent for Art Program, the ordinance that allows this kind of work to happen in our community, and a little bit of how the process goes. And this is a little bit about how the decision-making process. The Public Art Program, which is where Abby and I work today at the Salt Lake City Arts Council, is established by an ordinance that was passed in 1984 by the city of Salt Lake. And what it allows to is that, what it indicates is that 1.5% of all of the total funding for capital improvement projects gets put into a pool, and out of that pool of money is where we create new and exciting public art here in Salt Lake City. We have our design board, which is a citizen advisory board, is comprised currently of 5 members. These are the people that decide which projects to recommend to the mayor for commission. So this art advisory committee, citizen committee advisory board, they decide, they review the process, they ask critical questions about it, they analyze and engage with the community and see and ultimately recommend to the mayor for projects to be commissioned here in Salt Lake. That's a little bit about how this program works. We're very, very excited. We will be reviewing, we'll be receiving applications through June 18th and reviewing the proposal submitted in conjunction with the board shortly after. Abby, did I miss anything in the context?
No, that sounds awesome, Renato. Thank you for starting us off.
Thank you.
To anyone who's just joining us, the session is being recorded. You're welcome to have your video on and off, and feel free to ask questions at the end, in the chat, or throughout. I wanted to talk a little bit about some context on this specific project because it's a little bit of an unusual structure for a public art commission. I'm sure everyone has noticed that we are requesting a mural to be installed directly onto another artwork, a sculptural artwork, which is out of the blue. That is a life-size replica of a humpback whale emerging from the roundabout at 9th South and 11th East by artist Stephen Kessler. And you may have seen some of his work at the zoo, at the aquarium, around town. He's been really wonderful to work with and is someone who the commission muralist will be collaborating a little bit with on kind of the install timeline, and of course can be in touch with about any specific questions. The reason this project is structured to sort of have a mural go directly onto another sculptural artwork comes out of our community engagement and sort of our process of learning about this 9th and 9th neighborhood as we commission an artwork there. What we have been hearing from the community is a real sense of transition, varying interpretations of that neighborhood's identity, and almost a tension between some of the historical roots of identity in that neighborhood and some of its contemporary and potential future changes. That neighborhood is really becoming increasingly developed, becoming a little bit more boutique and upscale, but is also holding on to this sort of funky liberal background. And I think different residents there feel different ways about those identities and maybe many other identities that I did not just characterize. So what this project structure is attempting to do, this combination of having temporary murals and a longer lasting sculptural artwork, is to create something long lasting in this community that can be updated through time, allowing new artists to reinterpret the artwork itself, but also to reflect back their take on this neighborhood and this community. So this first mural commission will be one of several murals commissioned throughout time on this artwork. This is a big one, obviously, because it's the first time we all will get to know both this sculpture and this sculpture as a surface hosting murals. But throughout time, we expect to see variations on how we're all viewing this sculpture and sort of viewing this neighborhood through the lens of this artwork. We did some research as we kind of came up with this strange project structure to see if there were some precedents that we could really lean on, and didn't find too many precedents. So I am happy to be very frank with everyone on this call that, you know, we're learning and experimenting in this project structure, just as we expect Stephen is, and being flexible to have his work painted by a new muralist, and the muralist will be in painting directly onto a sculpture. So that makes us very open to having dialogue with all of you artists about kind of what's working here, your questions, what we can do to support in this process. That's probably what I would do for project overview, although I'm in the project. I'm happy to speak about that more if folks have additional questions on sort of that structure. I think a few details I'd want to highlight from this RFP are things that people can kind of gloss over. It can be easy to miss. So one key thing is the eligibility. This opportunity is open to Utah artists or Utah artist-led teams. We do require that you have residency in Utah. We sometimes get questions about, well, I used to live there, I have roots, I've got connections. It's for folks who are currently living and working in Utah. And we absolutely welcome you to apply as either an individual, as a team, or as a team, but don't apply 2-3 times with a bunch of different teams and your individual self and all different iterations. The budget for this mural is $7,500. That is inclusive of all artist fees, all materials, the cost of installation, you'll see a clause in that RFP that pretty much lists any expense under the sun. That's what that budget would include. There's one big exception there. The city will be covering the cost of the anti-graffiti coating that we are requiring to be installed on top of the mural. So a little bit of one exception to that kind of typical budget language. And we are happy to work with the artists in any way we can to sort of like streamline processes and mitigate places where additional costs may be incurred. So if there's a way we can help shorten the installation period, so there's less of a time on renting equipment, let's talk and just see what we can do to kind of make this budget work as much as possible. There is some language in the RFP about the timeline for this project. The big one is obviously the deadline to submit proposals. So that is June 18th. Mine's not loading. June 18th, and very easy to miss, 5 p.m. So we do require that you submit your proposal by 5 p.m. And we stress this so much, and it always catches folks by surprise. Folks are used to having midnight deadlines. We have our RFP close at 5 p.m. so that we are available and working all the way up until the minute it closes and can have last minute contact with artists if something comes up, they have a technical issue, they have a last minute question. That said, we always have artists who miss that 5 p.m. cutoff and kind of email us at 11 p.m. saying, hey, can you still take this? And it's not really fair for us to accept those late proposals. So I really strongly encourage everyone on this call to try and get it in before that last day. We want to support you and make this work, but we do definitely encourage you to take that deadline seriously. And I want to flag that 5 p.m. cutoff. Our art design board will review all properly submitted proposals at their July 1st meeting. We invite stakeholders, and they're open to the public to come to all art design board meetings. But the art design board are the only voting members who will ultimately select one proposal. The art design board recommends artwork to the mayor. So they are not the final decision maker. It's Mayor Mendenhall who will receive that recommendation and determine whether or not to move forward with that recommendation. So that is our artist selection process. Our art design board members are meant to reflect all 7 districts of Salt Lake City and come from a variety of backgrounds: artists, arts educators and administrators, and arts interested community members. And we have a little bit of info on the art design board there in the RFP if you want to learn more about those folks. That said, please do direct any questions during this proposal phase to Renato and myself. We'll be your point people to answer questions, not those board members. You'll see in their language about please don't make unsolicited contact with the board members. It can threaten your eligibility. Let's see here. Okay. Artwork goals budget. Okay, contract. Great. So for all city commissions, we enter a contract with the commissioned artist. You can see a sample of this artist commission agreement linked on our website. And I definitely encourage everyone to at least give that a quick peruse before you complete your application or as you complete your application, just so that you know what will be expected from the contracting process. That contract details payment schedule, obligations from the city to the artist, from the artist to the city. And I would also flag that it does detail some required insurance. So the city will require any commissioned artist to carry a bit of insurance. And it's just worth maybe having that mentioned and highlighted before anyone gets far into the process and feels blindsided by that. If anyone peruses that contract, is wondering more about that insurance, wants to make sure they understand exactly what would be required before they apply, we absolutely welcome questions. I know that that kind of bureaucratic logistic part of the process can be a little bit daunting to navigate. And so any support we can provide on the front end to help make that very understandable or easy to navigate, please reach out to us. I think that will be sort of a refrain for me and Renato throughout this info session, which is we understand that you all are doing the bulk of your creative process here in creating this proposal to send our way for an RFP, and just whatever we can provide to support you in terms of questions answered, additional resources and information provided, we are here to do that. I think that pretty much covers some of the nitty-gritty details on the RFP. We're going to talk next about the design criteria, artwork goals, and selection criteria. And if folks have questions on what I've covered so far, feel free to start throwing them into the chat or jump in. And otherwise, we can hit those at the end and just keep pushing here. Cool. Renato, do you want to take that next section?
Yes. Excuse me. Thank you so much, Abby. That was great. So right now we're going to talk about a little bit of the artwork goals and the design criteria. To all of you, all of this information, you will find very detailed information in our RFP, which is a PDF link that you can find on our submittable, which is where you actually apply for this call, as well as our website under Call for Artists and Open Call. The Solid Art Design Board is seeking an artist or an artist-led team to create a mural that meets as many as possible of the artwork goals below. Serves as a welcoming entrance to the 9 South Corridor, is site-specific and engages with the dynamism of the 9th and 9th neighborhood, is engaging from all angles as the roundabout provides an opportunity for viewers to view the object from 360 degrees. And this is important since the mural itself will be placed or will be painted directly onto the surface of a sculpture that it's a roundabout, so it will be engaged on 360 degrees. We ask you to consider that when you create your proposal. Of course, we look for work that is of the highest quality, creatively and technically, and it exemplifies strong imaginative design. Consider and incorporate sustainable materials. Considers the residential and commercial nature of the neighborhood. This is another point that Abby brought up at the beginning, but this is a residential area. There's a lot of businesses in the 9th and 9th neighborhood, and then the 9 South Corridor also leads to a public high school, East High School. So consider this nature of the neighborhood as you create your design. Generally, your design will resist general wear and vandalism, and it will offer easy, minimal, and low cost maintenance. Another thing that Abby mentioned already as well, we will provide you with anti-graffiti coating that will be placed on top of your design. It shouldn't change your design proposal at all, but that's something that we ask you to consider because that will be a requirement. And as well as this artwork should meet all public safety and maintenance standards and complies with the Americans for Disabilities Act, which is the ADA, solid exterior requirements, and all other applicable laws, codes, and regulations, including guidance from the solid exterior transportation and engineering departments, which we are working on directly to make this artwork happen, this mural. A little bit about the design criteria, and this is something you also find in the RFP. Your designs should avoid metallic, reflective materials that may cause glare for people walking, bicycling, or driving. So think about this. This is going to go on a roundabout, so we want your design shouldn't distract people from driving or shouldn't, hit their eyes as they're turning around. It should avoid colors and shapes common to standard street signs or pavement markings. On an RFP, there's a manual that the Department of Transportation provided us. What it is we ask you to use your best judgment when it comes to this part of the process. So we are all familiar with the different traffic signs, traffic colors, and shapes. So we ask you to use your best judgment when incorporating those things into your design. And we will tell you, Abby and I will be more than happy to run any questions you may have to our transportation department if you feel like your design may include this, or if you have any questions, we're more than happy to do this as part of the process. Just let us know before the 18th, and we'll be happy to run these questions to the appropriate persons and give you an answer. Designs are two-dimensional, so it shouldn't interfere, perforate with the sculpture at all. It's paint. It It will be painted on the surface of the object. Designs are image-based and do not include text, logos, copyrighted or trademark images, and function as signage or advertising in any way. Designs propose to use materials suitable for installation on a fiberglass surface. So this is the sculpture itself, the whale will have out of the blue, will be primed and it's on fiberglass material. So if you have any very specific questions about the type of paint that you want to use, or if you are considering or have questions about its durability or anything like that, we'll be happy to help you with the process. But there shouldn't be any issues of concern or anything like that. Next things, designs should avoid obscuring the form or content of the sculptural work. And proposed murals do not have to cover the entire surface, but should creatively engage with a majority of the sculpture surface. So this is another thing that came up or has come up. We ask you to consider painting the majority of the whale. We do not ask you to paint all of it, but consider your proposals should engage with at least the majority of the surface of the sculpture itself. Lastly, artists are asked to strongly consider the residential and commercial nature of the neighborhood, which is something that I already expressed. And we accept abstract, non-objective, and representational works. So there is no sort of impediment in that. And let me check one thing really quick. Selection criteria. One thing that I want to highlight right now when it comes to proposals is something that I'm going to share my screen really quick. So this is the actual RFP. We are providing, but we're not requiring artists to submit proposals that utilize these renderings that were provided by the artist himself. So you're more than welcome to use these. We have them hyperlinked on our website and as well as in the RFP. So I'm just going to click on a few so you can see how they look like. These engage the object from different angles, as well as some bigger ones here, like this. You're welcome to use these in your proposal, but you're not required.
Can I just kind of echo that? I just want to make sure artists know we really welcome any format of expressing your proposal that works for you all. Because this has sort of a complex organic form that we're asking this mural to be installed on, it may be useful to use these renderings provided by the artist to get that your design across. But if you have a different preferred method that communicates clearly your proposal, including how it will be viewed from multiple angles, the board will be happy to review sort of whatever method works for you there. With a few limitations, I think we're not that excited about, for example, watching videos about your proposal, but in general, however you can kind of get that information across is fine by us. And if you need us to provide a different resource that would help you get your proposal across, let us know and we'll talk about it and see what we can do there.
Thank you, Abby. And, you know, like Abby said, like I cannot stress this enough, if there's anything we can help you with or access for you or any question, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're more than happy to. If we don't know the answer, we'll research it and we'll let you know. All right, the next thing is the selection criteria. The selection criteria for this project will be based on the following things. Having your project should meet some of them or all of them. Your experience representing a type of work like this, that it's similar in scope and scale, and this can be demonstrated with visual documentation. Your ability to meet deadlines, budget, perform work in a timely, professional manner, and be collaborative in the process. There's a lot of people involved in the public art process, so collaboration is key, and willingness to collaborate with other people. Your willingness to talk to us, Salt Lake City Arts Council, Public Art Program, the Art Design Board, community stakeholders, the artist who is creating the sculptural work that will host the mural, and city partners. Your ability to understand the sense of place and design in a context-sensitive manner as demonstrated by visual documentation. High investment in the project and demonstrates a relationship or connection to the content or community involved in the work. And your artwork should have a lasting nature. Like Abby said, it's going to be there for a number of years. So it should abide by, it should be designed in a way and implemented in a way that it will last for a few years, and that it also meets public safety requirements, Salt Lake City requirements, and its ADA requirements as well. All right. Abby, do you want to tell us a little bit about the process to apply itself?
I do. So we accept all of our applications on the submission software Submittable. It's really user-friendly and pretty intuitive. And so we have had pretty good success with folks using Submittable to submit their applications. The Submittable is linked in the RFP and on our website, and you can also just go straight to Submittable and find it there. And all of the project details are listed out. And then you'll get to a place where you fill in some forms, with your name and email and all that jazz. We have tried to sort of pare down the application requirements for this application, partially because it's an RFP and partially because of the budget and wanting it to be as accessible as possible. So we are only requiring a letter of interest and your actual proposal. In that letter of interest, we would love to hear about your interest in this opportunity, any qualifications you feel that you have for this project, and any connection you have to the 9th and 9th neighborhood. The board just loves to be aware of an artist's connection to the location where the commission is, if you have one. It's not an eligibility requirement. It's info that we are interested in sharing with our board, though, if you're willing to share it with us. The proposal should be a color visual rendering of your proposed design. Please do make sure it conforms to all of the design criteria that were outlined up above. That's the fastest way not to get the commission, is to ignore those design criteria. And it should ideally be a PDF file that shows at least 2 angles on your design. And we're requiring that just because it is really in the round, and I think will be much easier for the board to assess your proposal if they're able to understand it from more than one angle. If that is a big concern or a big challenge, we can talk further about that, but that's sort of the baseline of what we're expecting from proposals. We do say in here that your submission should reflect your final concept. If there's some small thing there that requires a little bit of wiggle room, that's something that we can be open to. So, for example, if your proposal includes some symbol or pattern that transportation flags as concerningly close to traffic imagery, we'll work with you to tweak that. But please try to have your proposal reflect your final concept. That's what the board will be assessing in our meeting. And we've sort of already touched on the renderings, which you're invited but not required to use to submit your design. Anthony says, can we visualize it in 3D so the committee can view it and turn it in real time? Sounds super cool. May I discuss a little bit with Renato and Steven on that option, just to make sure we'd actually have a way to present a 3D to the board, and get back to you on that, Anthony. And for everyone on this call, we will post that answer to our Q&A sheet. Thank you. I've stressed this before, but I'm going to stress it again. The Submittable will automatically stop accepting applications at 5 p.m. on June 18th. So please do make sure those required materials are uploaded by then. You'll also see in the RFP some optional application materials. And by optional, we truly do mean optional. If this is something that you would like the board to be aware of, you're absolutely free to submit images of previous work or /and a resume. And if it's something that you are not interested in adding to your application, it's not required. Optional application materials will be reviewed by the board, and if they're not there, then they won't be reviewed by the board. So we truly do just want to leave that up to the artist if it's something they'd like to communicate or not to the board. Given that this is an RFP, I know that much of the focus will be on the proposal and the letter of interest. So while we welcome those materials, please do not apply because it's hard to pull together your images or your resume or something like that. Awesome. And then we have in here some information on questions. If you're having technical issues with Submittable, you're absolutely welcome to reach out to us. And there's also a possibility of contacting Submittable directly. Technical challenges you're having. We would hate for artists not to apply because of some technical issue with the application software. And so the earlier you start the process, the longer lead time we will have to work together to troubleshoot something. And then as far as questions about the proposals or the opportunity themselves, hit up Renato and I. There is a general public art program email listed in the RFP, which is probably the best way to get a hold of us. Fabulous. Okay. And then just so you all know about sort of the review process, we send all materials to the board and stakeholders a week before they meet. So folks have ample time to sort of take time and go through all of the proposals. The board will generate a shortlist and then work from that shortlist to narrow it down to the one artist whom they will recommend to the mayor. The mayor is the one who has final approval on all public art commissions. And so it is not over until she has either approved or rejected their recommendation. Fabulous. I think we are about ready to open it up to Q&A, but I want to reiterate 3 key takeaways that everyone hopefully does in fact take away. So one of those has to do with the timing. I've stressed this a lot. We're really serious about this 5 p.m. deadline. Please start on the earlier side. Last call for artists we ran, over 50% of our applications came in on the last day. And it is so stressful for me to watch them roll in 2 minutes before the deadline. I think it's probably stressful for you all too. So consider getting that app in as early as you can. The second is to really read carefully and take seriously those design criteria. I know that's quite a lot to sort of process and integrate as you're trying to work through your own creative process. But compliance with those design criteria are going to be very important in the board's review of proposals. And so we've listed them out there in that detailed way for a reason, and are so absolutely happy to field questions on any gray areas in those design criteria as folks are working through generating their proposals. And then the last takeaway I really just want to stress is what I just said, which is our availability to work directly with folks on questions or concerns as they come up. So please do view us as a resource, not a gatekeeper, and we look forward to further engaging with all of you. And with that, I think we are ready to hear any of Renato's final thoughts and open it up to questions and answers. Feel free to type them into the chat, turn on your audio, whatever works for you all.
I guess, yeah, Abby, thank you. I was just gonna say, a lot of the questions you may have maybe in the RFP, in that PDF that's included. So take a look at it, read it, and then let us know if there's anything else we can answer. Remember that our website has a Q&A sheet posted to it. So all the questions we receive from artists throughout the process, we update it as questions come in. So maybe one of your questions may have already been asked by someone else. And then read the sample contract. It's a lot, it's very daunting, it's a legal contract, but it gives you an idea of what you will need to sign. But the one key thing to point out there is the insurance requirement that the city requires us to have with artists that we move forward with. So it's take that into consideration. And yeah, any questions you all have, this is the time. We welcome them.
I have a question. So is it only painting on the whale, or is it anything else in the round we paint on, or anything else we design to go to to be a companion to the whale, or is it strictly painting on the whale?
That is a great question. So it's restricted to installing the mural directly on the sculpture. That is partially just due to the budget. It's already pretty tight just to get the mural. And so I think adding additional components would make us more concerned about kind of your ability to get a fair fee out of this.
Right.
And it's partially, I think, because these are meant to be temporary, installed for 3 to 5 years. I think that we're mostly just going to stay focused on that surface, but a really excellent question. Thanks for asking.
You bet. So don't put shrimp on the whale. Don't put 3D other models on it. Okay.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, when is the expected mural application date? Like, do you have a timeline when you expect us to paint?
Such a good question. So we are hoping to have the mural installed immediately upon the installation of the sculpture into the roundabout, or within very soon. What that means is September, possibly early October, but we're really thinking September. And we will have to collaborate a little bit between Stephen, the sculptural artist, and the muralist to make sure that the proposed installation date works for both parties there, so that the whale's not sitting there blank for too long before we get the mural on there. And then because it is in a public right-of-way, we'd want a relatively short installation window. We're flexible on what exactly that looks like, depending on the muralist's needs. There is a skirt on the roundabout that is wide enough that you should be able to bring in any kind of machinery required without doing a full shutdown of the public right-of-way there, which gives us a little bit more flexibility on that timeline. But we still would want to keep that as compressed as possible while still leaving plenty of time there for the muralists to get their work done. So I think what I'm really saying here is a little bit of flexibility based on the muralist needs and Stephen's installation timeline, but looking at a September install.
Great, thank you so much.
I put a couple of questions in the chat, but I just wanted to speak them out loud. The one is the diameter of the body of the whale, so that we know what that scale is, and then also like the height of the whale itself, and the length of the fins, just so we have a sense of the scale of the whole thing for the design.
Okay, awesome. So the height is 23 feet tall, and the fins will span just under 40 feet. There's some other word for them other than fins. Oh yeah, pectorals. I always call them fins also. I'm really trying to get my whale anatomy down as I work on this public art commission. Yeah, so the total span of those pectorals is just under 40 feet, which puts them just within the edge of the roundabout there. Does that make sense? Like just almost reaching to the curb. The diameter of the body is an excellent question, which I do not know offhand, but we'll follow up with you on.
And the surface, the paintable surface, it's plus minus 20 feet, 1,300 square feet.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I think as far as learning more about the sculptural work, which I'm sure is relevant as you all are designing a mural to go on top of it, we do have 3 articles on our Salt Lake Arts Council website, sort of introducing the sculptural artwork, answering some common questions that we've been receiving about the sculptural artwork, and following up on kind of next steps of what to expect about this. Those are pretty much community oriented in terms of messaging about this commission, but still do include some info on Stephen's design there that may be interesting for folks to peruse as they're working on their proposals. Those are linked in the RFP, but I can drop that link also in here just to make them easily accessible.
And these 3 articles that Abby just mentioned, they're a good way to provide context of just the whole project in general, not just the mural component, but also the sculpture itself. Any other questions?
So if I keep asking the 3D questions just to make sure I'm okay with it. Mostly because I'm a 3D artist and I build models all the time. And so painting on this is going to be, it's in my wheelhouse. So the question I have is, when I visualize it, is it okay? Obviously, I don't think you guys are going to release the model, but it is okay then if I build out a model and paint on that. And in the very least, in the presentation, give you still images of that, of a rendering over that 3D version, even if it's not exactly the same as Steven's. And if possible, you guys want a PDF, links in the PDF so you can click on and maybe visualize. There is software. It's called Sketchfab. All of you should know about it. It's just sketchfab.com. You can put 3D models there, and anyone can preview any kind of model that you build and texture. So I would like to be able to submit that as part of my proposal in at least the PDF, if that's acceptable. So I emailed you guys an example of the link. I didn't want to put it in the chat just in case you weren't cool with that. I could put it in the link if everyone wants to see how these models work in Sketchfab. But it's just a really cool way to visualize 3-dimensional things, and you can grab it and turn it. And but in the very least, it is okay for us to build 3D stuff, even if it goes back to you 2-dimensionally, correct?
Yeah, so I think, we were saying it's okay to sort of communicate your proposal as works for you. And I think this is an example of that. I would definitely encourage you to include a few 2-dimensional images of your proposal, in addition to providing the board the opportunity to engage with that model through links in a PDF. I think that some consistency across proposals by having that 2D PDF requirement is helpful in the board's review process, so it's not a total free-for about what they're engaging with. That sounds great.
Makes sense. Okay, very cool. And I can give you a Sketchfab link if the rest of you want to see how Sketchfab works.
Sure.
So I'll just put this link on here. It's a shark I built a while ago. And just so you can see it, if you click on it and it loads the shark into your browser, it should just load into your browser. And there's a full screen button on the bottom. You can also just click on the shark and rotate it around, and you can see it's a 3D model in space that you can visualize for, like if you guys are 3D artists and do want to visualize for other people, it's a really great tool. And the nice thing is you can see it on pretty much any device without any plugin. It doesn't require Flash or any weird. It just runs right in the browser. So there's a link if you guys, if you can see it. Oh, I might have not sent it to everybody. Sorry. I think I sent it just to Abby. Sorry about that. Let me send it to everybody. There you go.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you.
Well, that answers my questions. I appreciate your guys' time.
Yeah, awesome. I think if other folks have questions, feel free to voice them or hang around. Renato and I will stick around on this Zoom for a little while if folks want to chit chat with us. And if everyone's feeling pretty comfortable and satisfied, just feel free to start trickling off. Really, really appreciate everyone taking a little bit of time to engage with us today and talk with us. And we are just here to continue that dialogue as we go forward. Thanks for considering our call for artists.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Crazy.
Bye.
You guys take care.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.
We'll be here for a second, but thank you so much for joining us and taking the time and considering this. We appreciate it.
It's pretty cool. All right, we'll see you guys.
Bye. Thanks, Anthony.
Hey, so I had a question as far as I do have an idea for a submission, and I'm actually working on the painting just to kind of structure how I want to propose it to you guys.
Cool.
But I'd also wanted to extend that, if mine doesn't get, reviewed or doesn't make it till the end, I would love to be a part of any team, just an extra set of hands. Just anything involving art in the community would
That's
love.
awesome.
So,
Great, thank you so much. I think that we will absolutely pass that along to the commissioned artist if it's not you. And so they have that as, someone they can reach out to if that works for their kind of install plan. I know artists do sometimes love bringing on some extra help. And so we can just note that down. And if it doesn't end up being you who gets the commission, we'll pass that along. And what a nice and generous offer.
yeah, I
And,
would love to help. So,
and note that as long as your submission fulfills all the requirements, all the criteria, and turn it on time, you'll be considered. So
awesome. Thank you. I'm really excited. I've done some work with the Urban Arts Gallery and just I'm from Ogden. So being anywhere I'm actually in Ogden right now. Yeah. But that's awesome. Thank you guys so much for hearing me out, and I love to work with you guys.
thank you.
Oh, well, we can't wait to see your proposal. We'll stay in touch as you're working on it if needed. Thank you.
Awesome. And I have, you guys have your contact info on your guys' website for just like the public email.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
and
is.
I think our personal emails are in here too. I'll paste those one more time just so they're handy. It's just the two of us who review that public email, so
Okay.
that
You'll
also.
hear an answer from one of us.
Let's see if I can find them in here. Oh, yep, perfect. There they are. Let me go ahead and copy and paste those. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Have a lovely
Thanks, Jared.
Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah.
Good job, you guys.
Thanks, Taylor. I'm gonna shut off the recording.